Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Really excited to have you all join us for our last webinar of 2024. My name is Hunter Russ, and I'm a program officer here with the Bob Woodruff Foundation. Really welcome thank you everybody for joining us on the call today, and look forward from hearing from our expert panelists. For those of you who may be less familiar with the Got Your Six Network and the Bob Woodruff Foundation, the network is the largest non-governmental network of organizations serving our military and veteran community. It's made up of veteran-serving organizations of varying sizes, maturity, and focus areas across all 50 states, American Samoa, Guam, and Puerto Rico. And once again, thank you to our panelists for taking the time out of their busy days to join us. I'm really thrilled to introduce these experts who are here to help us learn more about how Social Connection and the programming that they offer can continue a veterans' engagement with the community and how it can impact their mental health. It's my great pleasure to introduce our panelists. Lisa Hallett, the Executive Director of Wear Blue, Run to Remember. Brian Jenkins, the Executive Director at Armed Services Arts Partnership. Zach Morlang, the Regional Manager of Western New York at ClearPath for Veterans. And lastly, our moderator for the session, Matt Campbell, Program Specialist, Partners Liaison with the Department of Veteran Affairs Veteran Experience Office. Each of our panelists and moderator bring a really unique perspective to this topic. Matt, I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you, Hunter, and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Just want to start off with thanking Lisa, Brian, and Zach for allowing me to be serving alongside you with moderating this. So let's just dive right in. I'll start with Lisa, and then we'll go round robin to Brian and Zach. Lisa, briefly share the mission of your organization, and then what makes your the overall big picture of your organization.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Good to see everyone. Wear Blue Run to Remember honors the service and sacrifice of the American military through active remembrance. So what that looks like is we have dozens of communities across the country that bring together our military, our veterans, our Gold Star and surviving families, and our community supporters. And we share in fellowship, we speak the names of our community's honored fallen heroes, and then step off in a run or walk. Wear Blue is a place that we connect amid multiple PCSs and training exercises, a place we can heal from frequent combat and training losses, but most importantly, a place to live in wellness and inspiration with a community who truly gets it. Nested in our community runs is our Gold Star and Survivor programming, honor events, and Tribute Wear Blue Miles. We're creating a place to remember, belong, and live in wellness.
Great, thank you. And I see all the amazing work that you do, Lisa, in your community. So thank you for sharing that. Brian, we'll go to you next.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, folks. My name is Brian Jenkins. I'm the Executive Director of the Armed Services Arts Partnership, or ASAP. We're the nation's largest military arts organization with a mission to foster creative communities where veterans and their loved ones thrive through the arts. What that actually looks like is teaching veterans, service members, military family members, spouses, caregivers, survivors, actual creative skills like stand-up comedy, storytelling, creative writing, ceramics, comic book writing, flame working, glass blowing, sword fighting for the stage, Shakespearean act, like any kind of creative expression you can think of, we probably offer a program in it. And we do this because the arts are a distinctly powerful way to address many of the challenges of post-military life, like addressing social isolation, post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injuries, and even the specter of suicide. So our programs strengthen protective factors against suicide, foster social connection, improve resilience, improve confidence, and enable folks to better understand their own stories and then share that with an audience. And together, we find that the arts are an undeniably powerful set of tools to move through questions of identity, community, tragedy, purpose, loss, and war.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you again for sharing that. And again, kudos to all the amazing work that you do with ASAP. Zach, let's hear it from you, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So at ClearPath for Veterans, we're really aiming everything to work in a one-size-fits-one approach, whether you're active duty, veteran or even just a military family member or somebody that, identifies as aligning with the military community. So whether that's, family support needs, individual one-on-one peer support needs, or just community efforts where you want to feel like you're surrounded by those in your group. We do our best to not just provide services at our main campus in Chittenango, but taking it on the road and really meeting those veterans and family members where they are. We put a lot of pride in the fact that all of our peers are veterans in establishing that baseline with those that we serve one-on-one. There's no need to feel like you're expressing something that someone doesn't understand. That background is there. And then to the same effect, veterans have families and sometimes it's not the veteran themselves, but their loved one or child that could use the support, and our holistic care from our family support component and things like that really loop them in so that you feel like you have a place not just for you, but the ones you love, and broadening that sense of community wherever it is.
Yeah, Zach, thank you for that. And one of the things I just wanted to tease out from there is you said, meet them where they're at, right? Like that's half the battle sometimes, is leaning in and meeting folks where they're at, wherever they're going through. So thank you for sharing that, Zach. I'll start with you. You kind of touched about what makes some of your programs unique in terms of what you do in your organization, Zach.
Yeah, so we really try to approach everything from again, that one size fits one mentality, but everything is for everyone. So for our peer support program, it's just veterans running around helping veterans navigate resources, homelessness, food insecurity, whatever that individual veteran is facing. They have someone to stand beside them and work with them. It's not, a stranger over the phone. We really try to meet them where they're at. So when you look at where our peer team is, we're not located in any one spot. We really try to hire even for local impact. So for me, being the Western New York regional manager, I live in Rochester. My employee, Samantha, who's also an Air Force veteran, lives in Wayne County, which is a little more rural. And we live here. We're a part of the community we're serving, and that enables us with the ability to drive to the veteran and not ask to come meet us at a facility or during a particular business hour. And then likewise for that, those family members, Colleen, our wonderful family support person, she's resource navigating anything, whether it's job support for a spouse who's had to up and move their life along with that military member, or even putting on events to just create that family setting. Our back to school festival has been phenomenal in providing hundreds of backpacks to children of veterans before they go off to school at the start of the new year. And sometimes those introductions, even for freshly relocated families, can be crucial in creating that sense of community for all of them. Our world-class canine program gives veterans the tools they need to combat things like PTSD, MST, TBI. And we pride ourselves on getting our ADI accreditation with that program and linking service members with a dog that can be their tool in navigating the civilian world after a life in the military that frankly not many people are well equipped enough to provide support for. And that's really the nuts and bolts of it all. The sense of community we try to bring with our canteens, nothing brings people together like a warm meal, and our culinary department really bolsters that both on our main campus and taking it on the road to those that are disconnected or just simply not located conveniently to things like the VA and other service providers in the area.
Man, that's amazing. We'll kick it to Lisa next. Lisa, same question.
Well, I love the question because even our initial responses highlight our diversity. We're Brian's flamethrowing, and Zach, this one size fit one approach. I'm not going to boil the ocean. So I love the diversity of approaches to supporting such a deserving population. I think for Wear Blue Run Tree member, our combination of community, movement, and remembrance is really what makes us unique. And all of this with the bow of we're inviting our neighbors to join us. Military service doesn't happen in a vacuum. And we know these numbers in this community. 1% serves on behalf of the 99%. But we need that place where we can all come together. Military service is the American story. And as I've witnessed, my husband John was killed in Afghanistan in 2009. And I've witnessed since his loss, we truly are a grateful nation. And after losing John, I wanted to find a place where I can still be among our service members, our veterans, and our families of the fallen. And I think that's true for all of our populations. We need to look across the room and see one another, that we have that place of belonging. Our military see our survivors and know that they're healthy, happy, moving forward, that our survivors and our veterans know that they have a continued place of belonging and understanding in our military community. And so Saturday mornings, no matter where you live, there's no cost to participate, no matter your connection to service. Come join a Wear Blue Run to Remember gathering. Speak the names of your friends or family you've lost in service, or learn the name and story of an American hero, and then live in wellness. We step off in a run or a walk following that. We never discriminate, or it doesn't matter the manner of death when we honor our fallen. As when you raised your right hand to protect and defend our nation, you became an American hero. And so in our community, whether it's through our Gold Star programming, in a Saturday run, we honor those who passed away in combat, in training accidents, service-connected illness, by suicide. We've lost 26,000 service members since 9/11, leaving behind thousands of family members and friends who felt like family. We really believe that Wear Blue is that place. But remembrance defines us, community unites us.
Wow, that's pretty profound what you just said there. At that end, community brings us together, right? And I immediately think of being at one of your runs and just seeing it. I think it was at the last year we were at the Student Veterans of America at NatCon, and you guys kicked off one of those, and it was amazing just to see everybody truly come together for that sole single purpose, to honor and remember and reflect on those that they've lost, or doing it in remembrance of. So pretty amazing and pretty powerful being at one of those events. Thank you, Lisa, for sharing that.
First, just certainly agree on the power of going to a Wear Blue run. The emotion, the presence in that space is so powerful. And I love that Lisa makes those things happen. Onto what makes ASAP unique or distinct in the space. Folks don't often think of creative expression and arts as the first thing that a veteran might be interested in participating in, but there's actually a strong alignment with the military experience, the shared purpose of pursuing a mission together to create something, put on a show together. But more than that, there's actually a rich legacy and history of the arts in the military that is often forgotten. In World War II, the Department of War had a massive aligned effort to equip soldiers to put on performances like sketch comedy shows and so many more creative acts to express themselves, because the Pentagon knew that these performances, this creative expression was powerful for unit cohesion, combat readiness, and troop morale. Those are direct quotes from the archives. And the Pentagon had a huge operation that published scripts and manuals on how to act, write, direct, create costumes, and build sets from scraps. So we stand on that legacy of these soldiers doing shows for one another in the European theater in World War II and bringing it into a modern manifestation today. And there are other organizations who do terrific work in the arts with veterans and military families. Some of the things that make us distinct in that area, one is that we activate local arts ecosystems in the chapters where we operate to serve the military community. So we will reach out to the local improv theater, to a local ceramic studio, to the local Premier Performing Arts Center, take their instructors and have them participate in our training to understand military cultural competency, trauma awareness, crisis response, and suicide prevention, and then send them back into their communities where we produce a class, promote it, evaluate the impact of that class, and it happens in their arts center. So we all talk a lot about reintegration into their communities. And one of the things that's important about our model is that we don't have any classrooms or theaters or real estate that's ours. We do it all in other local arts organizations that already have that ecosystem set up, and we're activating it for the military community. And then one other piece that makes us distinct in the arts space is our evaluation work. We've published rigorous research demonstrating the outcomes of the arts with military families and veterans, things like resilience, self-esteem, confidence, integration of self, and social connection. And when you think about the arts, it's often warm and fuzzy feelings, but people don't think that it's something you can quantify. And the truth is you can. And there's a really significant change to folks' well-being when they participate in these programs.
Thank you, Brian. You had talked about some of the outcomes, like, and how you get the word out. Could you elaborate more on, like, how does your organization get the word out to those in the community, and in a way that resonates with those diverse audiences?
Certainly. So 95% of folks who graduate from our classes say that they intend to participate in another class, and our data shows that they do. The average person participates 4 times in a year. And then 99% of our class graduates say that they refer our programs, recommend our programs to their friends and family. So that net promoter score of 99. And so that means word of mouth ends up being our strongest referral source, people telling other folks about the programming. However, so much of what we do is addressing social isolation. And if someone's hearing from a friend about our program, they've got a friend. So we're doing the best that we can to spread the word about the program also through clinical partnerships. Between 10 and 20% of the folks who participate in our programs in any given session have come to us from a clinical referral, usually a therapist who has said, hey, this program that ASAP does would be a really, have you considered trying stand-up comedy? This could be something fun for you. Maybe find some friends, build a new skill. And then lastly, of course, we also are doing things like social media, including paid media, and also earned media, appearing in local news and things like that. But ultimately, what ends up being the most powerful is folks spreading the word by word of mouth.
Thank you for sharing that. Lisa, same question. How do you guys get the word out about your guys' various programs to diverse audiences?
Yeah, Brian, I love, the word of mouth is so important. And it gets me thinking, when the first things when we started Wear Blue, somebody's, it's like, oh, I'm going to put up flyers at the coffee shop. And somebody says to me, when's the last time you did something that you saw in a flyer at a coffee shop? And so at Wear Blue, we always say nothing is more powerful than a personal invite. And that's true. And because right now Americans don't feel connected to community. 1 in 2 Americans are feeling isolated. Only 16% of Americans feel connected to their local community. And they're not just bad feelings. There's a mortality rate to that. Feeling lonely is the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Right? That's life-changing. So we have a real imperative, whether it's building, community through the arts at the canteen or in wellness, being healthy and active in your local community on a Saturday run. We've got to do it. There's a real imperative. And so we're focused on forging relationships with our community. We work with our local VAs. We work with our local military installations. And it's really getting into, I'm next to an Army installation. So here in our community, we're working at the platoon level, getting in with our service members, their families, their family readiness groups, our boss, better opportunities for single soldiers, but then mimicking that with all the different branches of service across the country. We are here to serve our military veterans and surviving families. And there's so many amazing organizations out there. The power of collaboration, even in social messaging collaboration, is really meaningful. Because I definitely can't teach anyone to do stand-up comedy. I mean, I've tried with my kids. They say it's not working. But I want ASAP family members to know that they can come run with us. They can come remember with us. And I want my families to laugh and live with that creative path that is available through other programming. So partnerships matter. And then, of course, everyone else, It's that social arm. A real great twist is we have some amazing partners from Amazon and of course the Bob Woodruff Foundation to JLL. But when we partner with one of our corporate partners, they have a population of military spouses, dependents, veterans, who are also looking for belongingness, connection, and identity. And so when we can bring our programming, our messaging, our stories to those populations, it's a really great way for us to reach a population who is looking to run, honor, and belong with Wear Blue.
Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Yeah, and I think how the VA oftentimes tries to come alongside and work. VA can't be in everything to everyone. Veterans, families, caregivers, survivors, they are in the community, right? And we have to have those rich partnerships to enhance that trust and build those relationships. And it's through those partnerships that we continue to amplify our efforts together as that one voice, right?
Matt, the VA has done a tremendous job too, whether it's a highlight you've done from your channels, the storytelling that's getting released, and you're really seeing whether it's the faith newsletter coming out, but there's so many different ways to connect because we all need different ways to connect, and the VA is really doing excellent work amplifying our messages.
All right. I know time's going by fast, right? We'll kick it to Zach. Can you share some of the challenges that have inevitably arose in connecting with maybe some rural veterans within your community? And what about those are economically disadvantaged?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the answer's in the question somewhat, right? Where when you talk about rural, the assumption is just, are we driving through flat land and what is there around here resource wise? We work with plenty of veterans that live in a county where there's not a VA clinic even within an hour drive or anything like that. And so when you try to approach the way of bringing clear path programming to an area like that, you have to be resourceful. And luckily for a lot of these communities, the answer is just buried somewhere deep in that community. So we've tried to take it on in many approaches. Number one, just making our peers available to travel, to get to that individual that needs the help, whether it's a family member calling on their behalf or a VA care worker who just knows we're in the area, reaching out and saying, hey, can I give your info to this veteran? So to your point, the VA has been leaps and bounds helpful in us getting our message out there, as well as the other organizations we work with. And so that information gets shared. And when we're able to go and work with those veterans where they live, they no longer feel like they're on that island anymore. And likewise, for that sense of community, you have these institutions like the American Legion and the VFWs who some say are dying. And I think a lot of that has to do with, for all this time, they've been kind of having to support themselves. And so what we've done is found ways to mobilize and utilize their spaces and their members in a way to not just help us fulfill our mission, but make people know that they're there as well. Every region we operate in within New York State, we have a culinary team that packs up and prepares food and comes out and invites everybody in, veteran, politician, local community member, we don't care, come in, sit down and just meet with each other and learn who lives where you're at. And that's an opportunity for us to network, but it's also an opportunity for us to pull those hermits that don't necessarily want to leave their home and come out and socialize and engage with us and learn about what else we have to offer. And then economically, it's the same thing. You may not be aware that there's a Catholic Charities in your community that can help you with getting that utility bill paid, or that the VA can actually come to you and install a ramp on your house so that you can leave it in your wheelchair or walker. It's nothing compares to having a person physically there with you to discuss these things and move past them. And it's easy to feel like that's not possible when you're landlocked in a rural community. And that's become our point of emphasis and expanding for sure.
Yeah, Zach, you had touched about, just those limited resources in some of those rural communities, you know, like we often talk about what are the social drivers, social determinants of health, and you know, oftentimes there's food insecurity, there's transportation, there's you name it. Those are just a couple, but like those are things that families and veterans are struggling with, right? And so knowing where those resources are, knowing the people that are in that space and that are meeting that need, um, is so critical. And so um, you touched on a lot in that answer, and I think you know the power of what Lisa was talking about earlier about you know, meeting people where they're at, but also you know, community is what unifies us. And you know, it's you know, I can share stories about, you know, people just reaching out, understanding like, hey, I need connected to this organization. I don't know, you know, where to go, where to turn. And, you know, I think some of the times, you know, within the VA, you know, you often think about you've seen one VA, you've seen one VA, but you know, I think that's part of my role is being in the VA is knowing the resources, knowing the relationships, knowing the networks, knowing the partners that are out there in the community, and being able to bridge those gaps and make those connections. Those are so critical. And I know you do an amazing job there in your community, Zach. So thank you for sharing that. How do you continue to engage veterans after they've exited your program? And you know, what does alumni involvement look like?
So rather than being a more retreat-based organization, we're a community-based organization. And when we get involved, when someone gets involved with ASAP, we want to really stay in their lives, and we want to help them to build a new set of creative habits and a lifelong community. So if somebody finishes a 7-week storytelling class with us, or a stand-up comedy class with us, or a writing class with us, it's not going to be a pat on the back, you're done, we'll see you never. That's actually the very beginning. When you finish that 7-week class, you finish that graduation show, and then there are open mics happening in your community run by ASAP alumni that our staff have almost nothing to do with. It like really beautifully gets completely outside of our control, and folks are producing their own performances, and other ASAPers are going as audience members to support their fellow veterans or spouses. They are getting up on stage themselves and building, continuing to strengthen that same skill. Maybe they're getting together in a weekly writing group that is focused on poetry or memoir. And then the other piece is we do invite folks to come back into our core programs. One of the reasons why we offer such a wide variety of programs, you heard me mention so many different off the wall our creative arts programs at the beginning, is because that variety keeps people interested in coming back. The weirder, the more weird the workshop is, the faster the signups happen. It's very funny to see because folks are once they kind of catch that creative bug, they're really surprised by it and want to keep coming back. So those are some of the ways that we stay involved with folks.
Brian, what's been your weirdest one? You know, you mentioned weird. Like what's name one?
Well, so I don't know if this is necessarily the weirdest, but the one that's most fun for me in just the last couple months is teaching sword fighting. Like I just didn't expect that would be a thing that we do, but it's a multi-week class where 12 veterans are coming into like a dance studio and learning sword fighting scenes from famous plays, and then practicing week after week after week. And then in the graduation show, they do these sword fights on stage to an audience. So it's just such a fun, ridiculous, kinetic, and also acting art form.
That sounds fun. I may have to sign up for one of those
Yeah.
in the future, then, Brian. All right. I'll kick it to Lisa. Lisa, can you tell us a little bit about your work with Gold Star Children and the mentoring program? And have you seen those families lean into those connections where Blue facilitates?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'm really, really proud of our Gold Star Youth Mentorship Program. And I'm really proud that the Bob Woodruff Foundation is one of our partners that bring this to life. And as I mentioned earlier, through combat, training, service-connected illness, and by suicide, we've lost over 26,000 service members since September 11th. And that leaves behind thousands of children who have experienced a traumatic loss of a parent. So in our Gold Star Youth Mentorship Program, we pair children of fallen military, no matter cause of death, with a military-connected mentor. And so each youth and mentor join the larger Wear Blue Run to Remember community for 4 months of training. And they focus on goal setting, learning about their fallen parent by learning about a life of service, and building a life-lasting friendship. And really, our Gold Star youth, our surviving youth, don't need things. They need people and experiences. They need that parent's absence to be counterbalanced by a village that truly enriches their lives. But it's been incredible to see these children just blossom. I'm not giving them something. I'm asking them to do something. I'm asking them to do something hard. And then I'm providing the tools and resources for them to grow from their loss. Grief is cyclical. And so our children, we want to make sure that they have the habits and the tools to navigate loss as it comes at the different stages of their lives, whether it's graduation, college, or just a hard day. When we look at the data results, our kids are absolutely healthier, they're more active, and a number that really stands out to me, our kids really grow in the pride and honor of their service of their parent. And this is important because when we look at the research, studies show that pride in loved one's service leads to better bereavement outcomes. And it's aha. So, I mean, it's not brain surgery, but we're able to connect those dots. And so, for me, my children were 3, 1, and 3 weeks old when they lost their father. They never got to know him. And knowing John was knowing love of country, knowing that commitment to his fellow service member. It was knowing the jodies that you say, cadences that you say when you're out on a run. And all those little nuances that these kiddos have lost, right? They were stripped of their identities. Military children is really rebuilt in this program. And what's amazing to see is these kids are getting healthier, growing resilience, right? They're experiencing post-traumatic growth. Their moms are also, or their parents, their guardians are really finding community themselves. They're connecting with other individuals who have experienced the same loss, who are raising bereaved children, who are single parents. And so it's tremendous to see them move and find their own place of belonging. But the number that probably warms my heart the most is the growth that we see in our mentors. 94% of our mentors feel like they have positively impacted the life of a youth. They have found their own sense of belonging and place. And so it's been powerful to be a part of our mentors' journeys of healing as they work through the challenges of military life.
Wow. Thank you, Lisa. Mentorship is so important, right? And just like you said, it's critical for that growth, for resilience. And, is there any specific example or a story maybe that from someone that's went through, one of those programs that have really kind of stood out to you that went on to, be a very strong leader in their community just at such a young age?
So many different stories. And we talk a lot, being an athlete is being stronger than yesterday. And means a commitment to living in wellness. And that's what we're giving. And so every single one of these children, these youth, some of them young adults, are becoming athletes, right? They're becoming stronger than yesterday. And that is tremendous growth and what they're deserving of. But it has been really precious. We've had this program since 2017. So really seeing our kids grow up in the Gold Star Youth Mentorship Program. And because they're healthy, happy, supported, connected, whole, they're now going on to attend college and be successful. We've had several of our youth enlist in the military. They are rebuilding. They rebuilt their lost identities as military youth and now have raised their right hand to protect and defend. It's beautiful. And then I think of families like the Urdanettas, and they are beautiful. They lost their loved one in 2019 by suicide. And Asher and Aiden are strong and capable and have had incredible mentors just pour their love and their confidence in them. They see their potential. And so every one of these stories are tremendous stories of overcoming loss and choosing to live inspired by life rather than broken by tragedy.
That's incredible. I see we had a question. We'll get to that here in just a moment. But I wanted to kind of go to Zach here in just a moment. We talked about mentorship, right? And, that veteran to veteran, that peer to peer is so powerful. How are peer support specialists connecting with individuals in the community? What tools or methods does your organization use to increase that social connection?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very multifaceted. I mean, we as an organization, we try to be at any and everything going on in our communities that's military oriented, right? We all go to the parades and the festivals that are raising funds for veterans groups and things like that. But I think what's more important is just understanding that veterans are the community members. And so you have to just be willing to go where people are in general. Right. And whether it's a food truck rodeo downtown with the hope of just coming across one veteran, or going to these family oriented events. Veterans have children and things. They're trying to live what some would argue is a normal everyday life. And you have to be seen for them to know that you're there and available for them. I see some of the questions that pop up in the chat are, how do you crack the shell of a veteran who may not be as open in identifying themselves as such, regardless of their generation, or maybe it triggers some bad memories for them. And it's that one-to-one connection is what really does it, but it's also just the availability to remove the need of an introduction almost. I see you as a veteran, I am one as well. We're past that portion. What makes you feel that way about your identity? Is it paling in comparison to what you think it means to be a veteran versus what you've experienced? And how do you navigate those feelings about yourself or others? And again, it's all about accessibility. So everywhere you see ClearPath, there's a peer not too far behind, if not right there, available at a moment's notice. And then it's hearing from folks like, hey, we missed you at this thing. Well, we didn't know, but now we do, and we'll be sure to be there. And luckily there's networks like this, right, that give us access and the ability to not just get our word out, but find ways to partner with other people and build an environment where a lot of resources can be garnered in an unconventional way. And our peers being attached to all of those is what makes it the easiest for their accessibility.
Do you see veterans and those folks coming back after you've had that initial conversation or that connection, that one-on-one, veteran to
Oh,
veteran?
yes, absolutely. And it's always under the context of, oh, I didn't realize that this was all that was available to me. I think a lot of the time what we see is people who hone in on one particular thing, and that's their thing. And while we don't like the saying of jack of all trades, master of none, we like to think we're doing a pretty good job at finding our way to master them all. It's just getting them through the door is the hardest part. Once they see what's available and how we can apply our one size fits one ideology, it's almost hard to convince them that we can't get it done for them. And whether it's us in-house or just somebody we're partnered with that has the tools for them and their time and place, we're going to connect them to something. And that's what gets them to keep coming back and re-engaging, is that follow through element of it all.
I know, from when I came into the VA for the very first time, it was about six years after I stepped foot inside the VA, right? And it was that walking the halls and walls and being able to connect with other veterans through their stories and their lived experiences and be able to relate. That is what really kind of drove me to the VA, right? And having been out of the military for quite some time, having lost a lot of men, back home, being the VA, being able to equip them, give them the resources, connect them to other amazing community-based organizations that are out there. Half the battle is just awareness and getting them connected to the right organizations, the right people that are willing to lean in and help them. So thanks again, Zach, for that. I see some questions that are pouring in. So I'm going to go to the chat. And I think, Brian, you had wanted to respond to Steve's question. Is how do we tailor these same kind of efforts to individuals who don't want to associate with military imagery and culture because it may trigger their symptoms? And he said, for example, many of us with moral injury have a hard time being around patriotic themes. They don't feel like heroes. Yet they still need the support and benefits of these kind of outstanding efforts to connect us to healing communities. Right?
Thank you, Matt. So yes, Steve, I love this question, and it's something that we think about a lot. We all know there are more than 15 million veterans in the United States, and when you have that many people, military culture is not going to be a monolithic thing. It's going to be something that actually looks quite different for each individual. And that experience of service, as Zach was also talking about, could differ based on the era of service, the theater of service, the kind of job that you did. If you had a buddy who was injured and you were not, or you lost a battle buddy, there's so many different things. Or if you had maybe you experienced prejudice or discrimination, or you are a survivor of military sexual trauma. There are so many different things that could impact the way that a person feels about their service. And each of our organizations and many others are doing everything that we can through a variety of solutions to build an ecosystem of support where people can belong. And not everyone is going to belong with every organization. So many organizations lean heavily into patriotic imagery and are using flags, and their brands are very red, white, and blue. And there are many people who will find satisfaction, connection, and belonging with that. When you look at an organization like ASAP and you see our brand, it's more about splashy paint strokes and creative, wonky ways of expressing ourselves. And that enables us to appeal to folks who maybe don't have a positive association with their experience. A lot of our people do. A lot of our people feel very patriotic and strongly about their experience, but also some don't. And in our classes, we are not telling people to create art that is reflective on their military experience. We encourage folks to create art that reflects on anything from their life. Maybe they're reflecting on childhood, or maybe they're reflecting on romance, or an experience they had traveling, or maybe it is something from their military service. So being aware that each of those 15 million plus veterans and all of the people who love them are not a single thing is really important. And for us, making our community a place where folks can express any side of themselves is super important. And that could look different for various organizations. And so hopefully, while not every organization is going to be a fit for every person, hopefully every person can find an organization that does fit for them.
Thank you. Lisa, did you have something to add to that?
Yeah, it's really important because we think about that a lot at Wear Blue, and especially with our surviving families. Military installation really represents a lot of what was lost, and it can be a trigger themselves, whether someone like me who's notified on an installation or having to move off installation, not because they want to, but because they had to. So all those things. And because of that, we build all of our Wear Blue programming off the gates of military installations. So our community runs are intentionally outside the gates, but it also makes it accessible for our community supporters. But we also have a series of virtual programming that enables people to engage at the capacity they're at. We dedicate the month of March to honoring women in military service, and we close with something called the Piestewa Challenge. We invite our community to run, walk, move, exercise in honor of the women who've given their lives in service to our country since 9/11, and that's named in honor of Specialist Lori Piestewa. We have a Memorial Day run that the Bob Woodruff Foundation is a tremendous part of, and then also our allied forces. And so, yes, we want people to engage, but sometimes engaging community means virtually. It means joining us online, just maybe looking and seeing what other people are doing, because it might not be something that you need, but showing up for somebody else is what somebody else may need.
One of the things the VA's done that's really exciting that we've embarked on was back in November of 2022, we started to see an interest in gaming, right? Like a lot of people are in that gaming space. And so like how could we lean into that opportunity? And so part of what we did in VA is we created this gaming partner war room, right? And we've partnered with gaming collaborators and organizations to strategize on the best ways to reach veterans and their families, offer VA benefits and services, right? Support their wellness and health outcomes. And, you know, we've seen a flux of veterans come choose VA as a result of just meeting them where they're at. And Discord and Twitch and Slack and these Q&A forums, just to hear what I think VA is really on the cusp of a big breakthrough with that. And, you know, it's exciting, right? It's new and it's transformative. So, you know, that's just one exciting way that we're leaning in. And, you know, we're getting partners, community-based organizations that are then taking them and putting them into their outreach events, right? In their communities. It draws younger families in, it brings younger veterans in. So it's just another way that we are listening to the voice of the community and, you know, trying to lean in and reach those underserved and unrepresented communities. Zach, I'll punt this one to you. You know, you talked about the peer-to-peer aspect and, you know, from your perspective, how can we effectively engage veterans who may be reluctant to identify themselves as veterans from a peer?
Yeah, that's definitely something we try to tackle in a couple different ways. And I think sometimes the simplest way is to give them the way to contribute without having to identify as a veteran to begin with. So when you come to our main campus in Chittenango on a Wednesday and we're feeding 200, 300, sometimes 400 people, you get your classic veteran with the hat or the combat patch vest or something that lets you know who they are. But for every one of those, there's a volunteer in the kitchen or on the serving line that's covered in gravy and an apron just serving food. And occasionally there's a veteran who looks at them and goes, I know you're a vet. But at the end of the day, they're blending in like a chameleon with the rest of everybody else that's there. You know, whether you're military aligned, you don't have a family member who served at all, but you care about the community, you're welcome at ClearPath and you can participate in our events in any way you see fit. And so sometimes you bridge the gap by meeting them where they are. You don't want to identify as the veteran outbound, you don't have to, but you should still come and participate. And sometimes it's just up to that one person that rubs them the right way to get them to crack out of that shell and be happier to identify as a veteran. And I think also understanding the generational difference that exists within that problem is a pretty useful tool. It goes without saying, as every year passes, it's harder and harder to find a World War II veteran, right? And so right now we're at the cusp of the Vietnam and Korea and those conflict guys really taking over the torch of that elder statesman of the veteran generation. And those are a generation of folks where, you know, they came home to very different circumstances as opposed to some of those other World War II vets where their own citizenry may not have been the most warming return. And that affects your psyche for decades as a veteran and how you think you're perceived and how you perceive those around you. And sometimes just offering them a space that's safe and not going to put them on blast for their generation or service branch is enough to get them to feel more welcome into that veteran community and hopefully get them to open up.
I think, you know, oftentimes they just want to be seen, they want to be heard, right? Oftentimes you just simply just sit there and listen, right? So how many times did we truly take the time to just lean in and just truly be there for one another, to just listen? I see we got another question. I'll open this up to anybody who wants to take it. How have you seen individual veterans succeed and heal after getting involved with one of these programs?
I'll jump in. there's no one size fits all. It looks so different for every individual, but one person who's just on my heart today, she's a Marine Corps veteran, a Marine Corps veteran who continued to work as a civilian in the Pentagon after a medical discharge, and felt quite isolated, and found our community actually by a flyer in a Starbucks, which Lisa, we don't do anymore, but somehow it did work occasionally. She took our stand-up comedy class, and then a ceramics class, and then a playwriting class, and she found a core group of friends, mostly other women veterans, who've really surrounded her and supported her. And she had a cancer diagnosis about 2 years ago. And her cancer journey has been such an arduous battle. And when she was in her first few rounds of chemo, there was people from the ASAP community were just showing up at her door on a daily basis with food, and to give her social distance so that there wouldn't be any harm to her, just dropping the food off on the front stoop. Or even more meaningful, we had another Marine Corps veteran, a guy who found a passion for spray painting, and he's turned it into a whole business where he makes his money from spray painting and selling his paintings. And he knows this other Marine Corps vet, and he knew of a quote that was particularly special and meaningful to her. And he's developed this weird technique with spray painting where he can paint something onto the canvas that you can only see with a UV light. And he painted this quote that she loves onto this painting that looks like a beautiful sunset or sunrise, depending on how you're looking at it. And he dropped it off at her front door as a gift for her, as a surprise. And so this beautiful way of folks expressing their love and care for one another through their creative expression is such a powerful thing to me. And each of those people is a success story that's supporting one another.
That's amazing, Brian. Thank you for sharing that. Well, quickly, Lisa, Zach, anything you would add?
Zach, we talked about different generations of service, and I would just say I have been tremendously impacted by the Vietnam veterans who show up Saturday mornings at Wear Blue Run to Remember. Mike Brown in 1972 was the only known Cobra helicopter to survive being shot down. And I think about, Steele Clayton and Dr. Jim Rooks, but they waited a lifetime, generations, to have the opportunity to honor and remember with a community who supported, understood, and celebrated their service. And so it is both a blessing to hear them have the opportunity to say the names of their honored heroes, but it is a tremendous gift to all of us to learn from their examples, right? Sometimes the power of Wear Blue is that it's not just bringing together different pieces of our community, but it's different generations of community so that we can learn from and inspire one another.
Getting to know veterans and what's going on and affecting them, and then helping them navigate those issues and seeing them come out on the other side of it is honestly the reason we do the job. Working in the nonprofit world, you're not making life-changing money. It's the fulfillment factor that really drives and motivates us to keep going and working with these folks. And for me personally, one of my first peer cases ever was a veteran living on his own, about to be evicted from his trailer because he was so far behind on rent. He was so physically degraded that he couldn't work, and he just simply had no family around to provide or assist him in anything. And whether it was helping him get in touch and obtain VA benefits for the first time in the 20 years since he had been discharged, or getting him over to utilities places to fix a broken furnace in the middle of February, and just making life livable for him while also giving him the motivation to see that things are improving slowly over time, and being available to him emotionally and mentally when he needed it. So just so that he had a reason to keep moving forward other than just himself. And we got him to a point where all those bills were paid, and and he got this lump of money back from the VA for you know, the years and years of what he had to go through. And the only thing he could think about was getting a drum set so that he could pick up a hobby again for the first time in a few years. And one morning I get a phone call from him and he's like, I need you here and I need you here fast. And it's, well, what's going on, Patrick? Is everything okay? You know, because I'm so used to this. It's an emergency. What's bad? What's going on? Just get here. And, you know, I pull in and I rush to the door and knock and he's answering. He's like, I got to show you something. And you see this brand new sparkling blue pearl drum set up in his trailer that's just been fixed up. And he's just so ecstatic to show me him playing hot cross buns. You know, it's just those little things are the things that let you know that you did your job right. And you have a reason to keep replicating these interactions for veterans, because even if it takes, you know, the better part of 1.5 to 2 years, you're getting them somewhere, and that's somewhere they would not have gotten on their own.
You just gave me chills, Zach, just talking about that. That's amazing. Now you want me to go buy some drums too. So I just want to say thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Zach, for this amazing webinar that we've been able to do. Just again, appreciate your time and your expertise, and most importantly, thank you for your passion to make a difference in your community. So thanks again for allowing me to be a part of this, and I'll kick it to Hunter.
I just wanted to say thank you to each of our attendees and each of our panelists for taking their time to share how they've created a community and continue that sense of community beyond the work that they do day in and day out. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and have a great week. Bye-bye.